Hey, what's up, everybody? And yes, believe it or not, I'm doing a Walking Dead video. I know I said last night that there's probably not going to be any Walking Dead videos this summer since I have no way to watch it. I found a way to watch it. Pretty much what happened is my dad showed me a website that's not necessarily a legal website, but it's a website where I can watch it. It's called Potlucker, and it has every episode of Season 8. So yes, the Walking Dead videos are coming back, baby, which I'm excited about. It was very creepy, but I know. So yeah, now on Season 8, Episode 1, the season premiere, and overall, this is going to be pretty exciting because I'm at the current season that just happened for Walking Dead, and I'm hoping to finally really catch up. I'm hoping to be caught up by, sometime next week, and then obviously I'll be all done, and then the Walking Dead videos probably will go away after I review this season. They'll probably go away. So let's talk about this episode. So obviously this was the first episode of the season, and I'm just going to say this, that this episode, the main focus of it was that war between the Hilltop, it's been a couple of weeks since I've seen it, so the Hilltop, the Kingdom, and Alexandria, what's all calling themselves the militia, versus the saviors in this war. That was really the main setup of this episode, was setting up the war itself, and kind of like the aftermath of the war. And that was the main setup. And overall, I gotta say, this was kind of a hell of a way to kick off the season. Now, I'm gonna admit, I don't know if this was necessarily a great episode, and I feel like it kind of needed to be a great episode since it was the first episode of the season. You really want to leave your mark on the first episode. I definitely thought Season 7's season premiere was much better. Season 6, I think it was probably better than Season 6. Season 5's was much better. I'm just trying to remember. I think it was better than Season 4's, not better than Season 3's, not better than Season 2's, and definitely not better than the first episode. But I do gotta admit, this was a really good episode. But if you had to ask me like what season premiere I would prefer, I would probably prefer Seasons 1 through 3 season premiere and Season 7 and Season 5's and 7 season premiere. It's not the worst season premiere that's ever aired for Walking Dead, but it probably wasn't one of the better ones. But it was still really good. Like I said, this show's been on for multiple for 8 seasons now. This is the 8th one. That it's kind of tough to outdo certain season episodes. Now, obviously, too, I forgot. I wanted to mention this. I watched a lot of documentaries, kind of building up to this episode. This is the 100th episode of The Walking Dead. They treated this like a pretty big deal. This was the 100th episode. So maybe I was expecting a little bit more because this was the 100th episode. I expected them to do something really big, and quite frankly, they didn't do anything really big. Because I can't believe this was the 100th episode. Think about it. They made it to 100 episodes. It's really crazy that they did that. I never thought that would happen. It's probably overstayed its welcome, I'll admit, but yeah, they made it to 100 episodes this season. So let's talk about this episode. Like I said, this was I already mentioned kind of like the season premiere and stuff, how it's Season 8, Episode 1. I've already went through that. And this episode came out on October 22nd, 2017. And really nothing else really to mention about this episode. I do kind of question if this should have been an hour-long episode, considering the fact that, they kind of built, this was the big fight that we were waiting for, and they only dedicated 47 minutes to it. And, yeah, I mean, I'm assuming, we know that, I'll just kind of give away what happens at the end, but then I'll really go through it. This war isn't over yet. Which I think we were expecting to happen because if this had been the season finale of the last episode, we might have believed that this would have really ended the war for Walking Dead. But since it was the season premiere, they want to continue this. They probably want to build to the season finale where it's going to be the real big war. Like, this was still a pretty big war, but like an even bigger war. Well, they'll finally finish off the this storyline. But let's start talking about this episode. So this episode kind of shows Rick giving a speech, talking about how when him and oh my gosh, I gotta take this phone call. I'm just gonna do this. Hello? Hello? Yeah, sure. Okay. Right. I had to take that quick phone call. All right, let's continue talking about this episode. So yeah, Rick talks about this speech, how when they met Jesus, they talk about how we have the right for this war, for this world to be ours. But now that we'll all come together, we can take this world back from the same. No, sorry, I'm messing up the group. From the saviors, we can take it back from them. We can, if we all come together, we'll win this war. Then Ken Ezekiel talks about how since him and Maggie are fighting together, they're considered his brother and his sister. And Maggie then talks about the speech, how we've all come so far, and now today's the day when we take this world back. Obviously, I mean from the saviors, because the world's overweighted by zombies, or walkers as they call them. But I love this speech here. And, then later on in the episode, Carl goes to fill up on some gas, and he here's somebody who has been scraping for food, and Carl thinks that he's somebody, and we found out that he's been shot at, so he's begging Carl to give him some food. And then Carl finds him, and Rick shoots him down and scares him away. And Carl gets kind of pissed at Rick, talking about how, Rick just pretty much shot somebody. He really didn't know who he was. And Rick says that he could have been a spy from the saviors, and he just didn't want to take any chances. So Rick tells him that if he wasn't one of them, he hopes he makes it. And then Carl questions how big Rick's hope is. And also what's been going on is slowly the militia has been taking out outlook posts where the saviors normally hide out. We didn't actually see who it was, but obviously we're going to assume it's Daryl, because Daryl has is the one that has the crossbow, and he shot somebody at the tree outlook, and then there was a walker down there, and the walker ate him. Morgan killed somebody at an outlook post. Daryl killed somebody else at an outlook post. So really, they were just going through different outlook posts about where the saviors would be and just slowly killing them off. And then Rick and his group, so the militia all go to fight the saviors, but Michonne, Rosita, and Carl stay back because of the... Well, actually, I don't really know why Carl stayed back, but obviously Michonne and Rosita stay back because of their injuries from the season finale. Now, I did read online that Rosita was pregnant around this time. I'm saying in real life, the actress was pregnant. I don't remember who. I gotta look up who it was. Of course, because I just know I'm gonna forget. Yeah, Christian Cerritos was pregnant at this time because I was kind of reading about her personal life, and it says, In March 2017, Sotritos revealed that she is expecting. Yeah, it was in March. Yeah, so she would have been pregnant around this time. I just had to think about it for a second. Because she announced it in March, but then had a baby on Mother's Day in 2017. So she obviously had to have been, well, that might have been 2016 I was thinking of. Because, alright, so I had my information wrong, because, I had my information wrong. But she may not be, but she had a kid around this time, and may not be around for this season. May not have a big role in this season because she didn't have, because she might be focused on raising a kid, because she had the kid in Mother's Day, and it was they filmed the show in the summer, so she might not be around as much for this season, which I really wouldn't complain about. All right, then. But yeah, Rick tells Michonne and Carl that they're going to finish this. And I kind of liked how Rick, though, had a little doubt in his mind, because Rick and Carl and Michonne, he kind of hugged them like it was going to be the last time they were going to see each other. Now, something that Rick kept going back to is they only really want to kill one person, and that's Negan, because he's the one that started all this. But if anybody else has to die along the way, then he'll kill him. And him and Gabriel have a conversation where Gabriel questions if this is really about Rick getting his revenge on Negan, or if it's about the group. And at first, Rick answers the group, but obviously they did more with that storyline later on. So then, throughout this time, we also saw Daryl, Tara, Carol, and Morgan. They all set up a herd of walkers to walk through, and they were waiting for them to. And Tara had it timed on a time about when it was going to happen, and of course they didn't show up right away. It was supposed to be a funny moment where, but the herd at first thought weren't going to show up, but then they did. What I don't like about Tara is, the dog's barking. Molly. Yeah, what I didn't like about this, we're going to have to deal with that. What I didn't like about this was Tara always tries to have a funny moments in the show, and they're never funny. So this didn't work. But yeah, and what happens here is that what this was supposed to do, they was probably supposed to bring the walkers all over to the Saviors, so that way the Saviors would have to deal with them. And they set up all these explosives so they would continuously follow them, because walkers are attracted by that type of stuff. And, one of them almost set it off, so Morgan went and killed it. I do think it's badass that Morgan is back to being a killer. And then eventually, the militia set up their own hideout place. And only certain people from the militia are going to go actually fight the Saviors. And Rick, I'm so thrown off because the fucking dog's barking. So, Maggie, that's what I was trying to think of. I couldn't think of her name, of course, because I'm thrown off. Molly, stop, Molly! Hey! Molly! Stop barking. Stop barking. Alright, sorry about that. I wouldn't have done this video if I known it was going to be this sloppy, because it's not my fault, because the dog won't stop barking. I can't do anything about it because I can't close the blinds, because blinds suck. But anyhow, I don't even remember where. Oh yeah, so Maggie said she wants to join them in this one last fight because we know that she's pregnant, and she said this could possibly be the last fight they had, whether she survives or she could give birth before the next fight. Because let's be honest, even after the Saviors, there'll probably be another enemy. We don't know what the enemy will be, but there'll be another one. And then Rick accepts, and Rick is actually starting to think about tomorrow, which Maggie is impressed about. And then we get to the Saviors. I want to really break this scene down. And Rick, so really the people that were there were like Rick, Ken Ezekiel, members of the Hilltop that were kind of like secondary characters, Gabriel, Jesus, Aaron, and I think Maggie was there. And everybody fires their guns to try to lure out Negan's group, or the Saviors. And the Saviors come out, but it's the main leaders of the Saviors. Negan, Dwight, Simon, Eugene. He's not really a main leader, but because he's been with Rick's group before. And I don't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but the guy that was like the main leader of when Ken Ezekiel will go do the pickups with them. And Negan is being much a very big smartass about it, talking about how he's like, well, look who's finally come and joined the party. And Negan says he doesn't want to risk his men because we're trying to figure out whose penis is just as big, who has bigger balls. And he says, I'm not much of a man to admit when my balls aren't that big, but Rick isn't. And Rick warns everybody else that you guys can stop this now. If you guys surrender, nobody has to die, but you only have one warning. And but he says that he is going to kill Negan. So Negan tries to use an insurance policy. Gregory, the leader of the Hilltop, and he says that the Hilltop and the Saviors are aligned with each other. And he tells them that if any member of the Hilltop tries to fight them, they're kicked out of the community and they have to fend for themselves. So he tells them to stand down. Everybody refuses to stand down, and Simon gets pissed about this and pushes Gregory down the stairs because they were up on the outside where the steps are. And then everybody gets into a shootout. No, Negan tells Rick that they don't have the numbers, and then they leave. And then everybody gets into a shootout. And then eventually somebody sends an LV, and it causes a big explosion. And Rick just wants to kill Negan. But Gabriel realizes that they're in trouble and they have to leave. And Rick doesn't want to leave. He just wants to kill Negan. And then Gabriel says, you said this wasn't about you, right? So this forces Rick to leave. And Gregory wants... Gregory needs help. So Gabriel goes to help him. But there's so many walkers around that... Gabriel wants to wait for the right moment to go in there, but then Gregory leaves him to the wolves, or in this case the walkers, and drives, gets in the car and just leaves Gregory to the wolves, which I kind of liked. It made Gregory look like an asshole, because he's kind of like a villain, but he's not really with the Saviors either. But he wants to make peace with the Saviors because he's a pussy. So I like Gregory's character in a way. And then Rick and Dale realize that Gabriel hasn't come back, and that they're going to finally strike again against the Saviors when the time is right, which is going to be tomorrow. And throughout this episode, we also saw Rick daydreaming about a better world. Now, we knew this was a No, we didn't really know this was a daydream because we were supposed to have thought that this was after the war had happened, like what was going to happen after they took out the Saviors. But we knew this was a daydream once we saw Judith, grown up to 5 years old, because we know Judith is only like a month, like 1.5 years old, and Rick's all happy to see her, and everybody and the whole community is just in a better place. And we found it was a daydream, and Rick realizes that if he hadn't shown mercy, that could have been the life that they could have had. So he says next time he's not going to show mercy on Negan when it comes to killing him. And this was him talking to himself. And then he has another speech with the group, talking about how the next time we go into a war, we're going to win like we always do, which I liked. And then Gabriel's afraid of the walkers, or obviously he's trying to escape them. And then he goes inside the Saviors, one of their mobile homes, and finds out he's in there with Negan, and says that he's shitting his pants right now. So something tells me that Negan's gonna end up killing Gabriel. And then that was pretty much the end of the episode. Also in this episode, we saw Dale and Dwight sending messages to each other, so we know that Dwight is still against Negan. He's kind of like the man on the inside. And that was really the episode. Really not a lot of storyline in this episode, but I still really like this episode. Like I said, the biggest storyline was that war they were going to do with the Saviors and the militia. And I enjoyed this episode a lot. I thought this episode was really good. If I had to rate it, I'll give it probably a 7.5 out of 10, 7.5, which would be a C, a C plus. I thought it was a really good episode. And I definitely enjoying. I think this was a really good way to kick off the season. And like I said, you really couldn't end the war with the Saviors and the militia, because it's the first episode of the season. They probably want to drag this out as much as they can, and I don't really blame them. It's not, because then what other storylines will they have to do other than that? Now, one thing I did forget to mention was Carl did bring food to that guy, and we saw him watching in the bushes. So something tells me that that's going to lead to something. I don't know what that's going to lead to, if we're going to find out maybe that he was a member of the Saviors. But I'm not really sure. But yeah, I enjoyed this episode, and I'm looking forward to Season 8. I hope Season 8 is a better season than Season 7, because I thought Season 7, while it didn't suck, was a very slow season, and it was decent, but I want this season to be really damn good. Especially, too, with the blow-off. Because I don't know if it's going to happen, but if there is going to be a blow-off, I'm assuming there has to be a blow-off now, since Rick and everybody else has finally taken a stand against the Saviors. But we'll have to wait and see. But overall, that's pretty much my review. Sorry this review wasn't the best, but I obviously had other things going on at the time. So, sorry about that. And I also had the dog barking, so I obviously had to fix that. But that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please make sure you guys like, comment, and share this video for more content. Subscribe to this channel to stay updated. Click on the bell so that way every time you upload a video, you guys will get the notifications for it. Make sure you guys do the same thing for my CM Brothers and No on the Talking Nader YouTube channels. And that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.